Good morning, everybody. How are you? So my name is Jeff Asher. There we go. There we go. All right. I'm the co-founder of Datalytics. We're a consulting company based in New Orleans. We do data analytics largely in the criminal justice space, and I'm here to talk about murder in America. The bottom lines of the data that we're seeing is that right now, murder is falling at the fastest rate ever recorded. We've been collecting data from the FBI since 1930. They've been doing national estimates on what the national crime trends look like since 1960. And the evidence that we have right now shows that the US likely had the lowest murder rate ever recorded in 2025, with murder declining in 2025 at the fastest pace ever recorded. That replaces the fastest pace ever recorded in 2024, which replaced the fastest pace ever recorded for a decline in 2023. So a tremendous drop in murder right now. And what we're seeing is widespread, it's historic, and we see it in lots of independent data sources. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a second. I'm going to talk about murder today. Obviously, gun violence as a topic is wide-ranging. There's lots of types of gun violence. I'm talking about murder because, one, from a statistical standpoint, it's the easiest statistic to track to show what our trends are. And the vast majority of murders nationwide, it's usually around 3/4, 70 to 75%. In some cities, it's as high as 90 or 95% of their murders are committed by a firearm. So while we're talking about murder, it's really talking about all of the criminal gun violence that we see in the US. So just looking at the national picture, what we have here is 3 data sources that are telling the exact same story. And these are graphs of murders or homicides or shootings rolling over 12 months. And what I mean by that is that each data point is the previous 12 months of the number of murders or homicides or fatal shootings or non-fatal shootings. And by looking at it this way, we're basically able to account for seasonality and show crime trends over time. So on the far right here, we have the real-time crime index. This is a data set that my organization has created that goes out and collects data from, right now I think we're at nearly 600 agencies, every city of 50,000 or more, every county of 100,000 or more that has data, so that we're able to track in real time what our crime trends are. The real-time crime index found through December of 2025, murder had fallen 20% relative to where it was in 2024. In the middle, you see the CDC. The CDC tracks homicides, including with firearm. Their data is a little bit slower, so we're about 6 months behind. We're through the middle of 2025, showing a nearly identical trend. And then on the far right, we see the Gun Violence Archive, which is looking at all data sources for gun violence, for all shootings. In this case, we're looking at shooting victims, so fatal and non-fatal shooting victims, rolling over that 12 months, and you see the exact same thing. And so what maybe 10 years ago, when these data sources were far less achievable, far less accessible, we wouldn't have inherently seen this trend. But now we're at the point where we can watch this in near real time. And I'll say these aren't the only data sources. Adam Gelb, who's going to join us, his organization, the Council on Criminal Justice, tracks murder and homicide and all sorts of crime over time. You've got NORC, which has a live crime tracker. You've got the Major City Chiefs Association, which does quarterly reports. All of these data sources are saying the same thing, which tells us that we're not seeing an artifact of a single data source. We're seeing an actual trend. And the result is a graph like this, which is the US murder rate per year. I have 2025 in red. It is an estimate. It is preliminary. But based on the data that we have, and even taking a conservative look and saying, OK, instead of a 20% drop that we see in the data, let's say it's a 17 or 18% drop, we then had by far the lowest murder rate ever recorded last year. If you take what we had in 2024, you apply an 18% drop to it, you get a murder rate of about 4.2 per 100,000. Prior to this year, the previous low was 4.4 per 100,000 in 2014. Prior to that, you have to go all the way back to the 1960s. So when we say the lowest murder rate ever recorded, we don't know how far back we have to go in this country's history to say, hey, this was actually when there was a lower murder rate. Yeah. Thank you. Clap for me, clap for me. Thanks, Greg. And it's really magical, I think, when you look at it in cities. And so what we have here is I got 12 cities when I go through the data that are recording in 2025 the lowest murder rate at least since the 1960s or early 1970s for all of these. For San Francisco, I had to go back to 1942. And to do that, you have to get these scanned in PDFs that are available on archive.org, and you have to go, and they're really poorly scanned in, and you have to say, is that an 8 or is that a 6? And it's very difficult, and it was a great exercise because I kept going through individual scanned in PDFs, find it on a different page, and then trying to pull up how far back do we have to go for San Francisco. For Newark, where I flew in, 1956. Other places like Bridgeport, which in the 90s was having 60, 70 murders almost per year, had single digits. I think it was 4 or 5 in Bridgeport, Connecticut. You've got places like Richmond, California, having similar trends of nearly 60 murders in the 90s and was having low single digits of 4 or 5 murders. Bigger cities like Detroit and Baltimore. New Orleans, where I am, had tied for the lowest murders since 1970 last year. Modesto, California, which if you look closely does not have a red bar, and Modesto had 25 murders 10 years ago in 2015, and last year it had 0. And so there's no bar there because there's nothing to show on the graph. You have to go all the way back to 1974, which is the only other year that they've reported data where they had 0 murders. These are, I think, the biggest examples of what we're seeing, but it's not the only examples of what we're seeing. And I know there's audience Q&A. I'm going to do some audience participation here. Is anybody here a baseball fan? Anyone? All right. Are you a Yankees fan? Any Yankees fans? Yankees? All right. All right. Y'all like me now. You're not about to. This is going to be sacrilegious, but there's this guy, Bill James, who, if you follow advanced baseball statistics, he's seen as sort of the father of modern analytics of baseball. And he wrote a piece, I think it was 2002 or 2003, that looks at Derek Jeter. And Derek Jeter, by the numbers, don't attack me, I'm talking about Bill James' article, was the worst defensive shortstop in baseball, by the numbers. And the way that, I'm going to need an extra 10 minutes on this conversation. So the way that they figured this out is, they have all of these numbers, and the way that Bill James suggests looking at it is you take Derek Jeter and you take the best by the numbers shortstop, who is this light-hitting shortstop for the Astros named Adam Everett, and you compare the 20 best plays for both of them and the 20 worst plays. You just watch them. And so you do this exercise, and with both of them, you see, Jeter, you've got that iconic, like, he grabs the ball and then he does his jump and then he's throwing it across and just gets the guy. And you see all these plays that he's charging balls and throwing it over to first. And then you compare the 20 best Jeter plays to the 20 best Adam Everett plays. And Adam Everett is, in the hole, deep in the hole, and he grabs the ball, diving down, jumps to his feet, and throws a missile at 100 miles an hour and gets this guy that you never thought this play would ever happen. And then you compare the worst plays, and both of them have the clunkers, the ball that just sort of goes through the legs, but Adam Everett has far fewer of them. And with Adam Everett, they're plays that are, in the gap, and by the end of the 20 plays, you're like, okay, that wasn't really even a bad play. And Jeter, they're like, he's not playing deep, and they're hard plays. And I know I'm running out of time, and I'm talking a lot about baseball. But you look at this, and you do the same exercise on murder. And you look at the places that have the largest decreases from 2021, when murder was at its peak, to 2025, versus the places that had the largest increases. And Chicago's nearly 400 fewer murders. Philadelphia, 344. New Orleans, where I am, almost 100 fewer murders. Even the lowest part city on this list, this is the top 20 cities, Louisville, Kentucky, had 56 fewer murders than it had in 2021 in 2025. And you compare that to the cities that had the largest increases. They're all mostly small places that, through randomness, through whatever, they maybe never even had the large increase that we had nationally in 2020. You're talking about Albany, Georgia had the largest one-year increase of any city in the real-time crime index, had an increase of 7 murders from 2021 to 2025. And this, I think, drives home that these are lives saved. These are hundreds, thousands, if you add it up, 8,000 or so fewer murders in 2025 to 2021. Across the country, pretty much everywhere. It is a remarkable drop. And we can very clearly see the what. The key then becomes the why, because we have saved all of these lives. And how do we transition from understanding this trend to figuring out what we've done to create that and what we can do to continue it so that we get, 4 per 100,000 is still too many. The goal should be 0 murders in this country. And so how do we get to that? That, I think, becomes the next enormous question. So for that, I'm going to introduce my friends Adam Gelb and Greg Jackson to come chat about the why of murder reduction.